who is followed by Matthew Katz. Sure.
Hello, my name is Judy Buck, and I'm here on behalf of the Roosevelt Island Community Coalition. First, let me say thank you, Cornell, for the best presentation ever, for your responsiveness to our previous questions. Obviously, there will be more questions tonight, most of them based on Cornell's draft environmental impact study. This is a legally required document that assesses the projected impact that construction may have on the community's environmental, social, and economic features. It's an 800-page study. You get that 800-page study, but there's a lot missing. Most notably, the presence of the living, breathing community that is already here. A community planned in the 70s as a mixed-use, mixed-income, pedestrian-oriented, green community. A place of beauty, peace, and diversity. You can see the plan working today in our mixture of luxury and affordable housing, in our gracious pedestrian spaces, in our unique transportation system, and in our population, which includes toddlers, singles, couples, musicians, scientists, the disabled, senior citizens, people from dozens of countries, and neighbors who look out for each other. We're concerned, however, because much of the Cornell study ignores the needs of these residents as we face the construction of a complex involving more than 2 million square feet. The Indian name for Roosevelt Island was Minnehanek, which means it is nice to be here. We look forward to taking the next steps with Cornell so that through the momentous changes ahead, it will still be nice to be here.
Light off here, if that's okay. I'm not sure what I'm going to do though. Hold on a second. Yeah, great. All right. Thank you. Mark Lyon.
Hello, I am Mark Lyon. I live at 30 River Road, and I am part of the Roosevelt Island Community Coalition. I looked at the zoning text as part of the EIS, and I'm particularly concerned about the public access areas. The areas shown in map 2 on the zoning text and also in the text itself provide only for one open space of at least 20 feet in width and a long, narrow, diagonal walkway that starts near a sports park and then ends near the closed entrance to the South Point Park. I'm concerned that the remainder of the walkways and other public areas on the campus are not going to be open and serving as public spaces. And I'm curious as to why Cornell has omitted those spaces from its space. I'm also concerned with the public access waterfront connection corridor, which is being counted as space that's accessible to the public, but it's not required to be open and actually accessible. It's a visual corridor that can be blocked by buildings, so that really serves no benefit to the public for getting through the island or through the space. Also, we have movable chairs being allowed to count as double, actually 2 feet of linear foot space for seating, which takes away a lot of the opportunity for people to actually sit in the public access space because they can use movable chairs that can be removed during their very limited access hours. The limited access hours are quite a concern. We've been told that this is the normal hours allowed for waterfront property. But the normal privately owned public spaces are 24-hour access unless special permission is granted. And Cornell has not demonstrated why the public spaces on a 24-hour campus should be limited to very narrow hours. I'm concerned about some of the calculations that I've seen in the DEIS. For instance, table 11.5 completely excludes the water usage that would be required for residential air conditioning services. We've also seen areas where other studies need to be conducted, for instance with sewer, and our elementary teacher just came and told us that they discounted the students at the schools. So I believe that further study is needed, and the information provided by Cornell has been incomplete and has not answered our questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next speaker is Matthew Katz, followed by Mickey. What is it? Riddler. And then followed by Jonathan Calvin.
Good evening. As you know, the RICC has been working with Cornell and the community board aid for some time to address some of the questions that have been raised by the draft environmental impact statement. RICC has read the 800-page DEIS, both collectively and individually, and our questions are based on the material that we've read. I wanted to address in particular the question of population. The report suggests that there will be 1,000 square feet per 4 workers on this campus. Studies seem to indicate that that's considerably more space than is currently estimated around the country, which is closer to about 176 square feet per worker. And in fact, according to a University of San Diego study, this is anticipated to drop to about 100 square feet per worker by 2017, which means that the resident population on the island is likely to be considerably greater than what has been anticipated in the DEIS. Further, the co-location workers, people who will not be living on the island, but will be commuting to the island on a daily basis, is likely to be larger as well, which has impacts on both our transportation and traffic considerations. And I would like this to be addressed by the board. Thank you.
If you could line up after, if the next person can come up, Jonathan can come up on the side here, and then we can expedite things a little bit. That would be great. Thank you.
My name is Mickey Miller, and I've lived on the island about 4.5 years, and I've reviewed recently the transportation chapter of Cornell's draft environmental impact statement. And as we know, Roosevelt Island is a unique environment that, unlike most communities, relies on a single thoroughfare, and that's Main Street. Although the Cornell study mentions Main Street, I don't know that there's a full appreciation of the difficulties presented by having one thoroughfare to transport tons of construction material by truck. For one thing, the helix ramp that leads from the bridge onto the island, as we all know, is already fragile, and the report expresses concern that the huge increase in truck traffic may compromise its structural integrity. Obviously, damage to the ramp would be a calamity for the island. Another problem is traffic itself. Although according to the study, there will be a huge increase in traffic during the peak rush hours. For example, currently there are an average of 67 inbound and 150 outbound vehicle trips in the peak hours. After the full build-out of Cornell, for the same hours, these numbers will increase to 457 inbound and 464 outbound. The study also indicates that the delays turned onto or from the bridge would increase dramatically at 36th Street and Vernon Boulevard during the AM and PM rush hours, from about 30 seconds on average now to about 3 minutes in some cases after phase 1, which is in 2018, and as much as 9 minutes after the build-out in 2038. Common sense suggests that continuous traffic jams will occur in Queens, on the bridge, and on Main Street, especially after the Phase 2 build-out in 2038. And there's great concern about how our seniors, our children, and the handicapped will be able to navigate Main Street during these peak, at any time of day, and if ambulances and fire trucks and what have you, emergency vehicles, will be able to get through. And of course, what if the ramp had to be repaired because of some problem that occurs during the construction phase? That would be a big problem for all of us. I'm also concerned about another problem factor, and that's parking. If Cornell builds a garage, it should be fairly manageable after the Phase 1 build-out in 2018. However, after the Phase 2 build-out, there won't be enough parking in their garage, so they're predicting that 45 cars will need to park in motorcades. But what's to stop them, I would ask, from parking in Southtown, especially students who have occasional classes and other things that could take up all the major spaces there every day? There'd be nowhere for our service vehicles or anyone to park. There are also impacts on the tram and on the subways, and so we're going to have a lot of delays on account of the build-out.
Thank you. And then Joyce Minichek.
I'm Jonathan Callaghan, I'm co-chair of the Rose Island Community Coalition. I want to thank Cornell for looking into barging the construction materials. It's very important. One thing when I noticed, and a lot of us noticed on the DEIS report, as far as mitigation for transportation, one of the things that wasn't touched upon was ferry service. I would suggest very strongly that if you're going to look into some kind of barging, that you look into the production of a dock permanently on Roosevelt Island. If you're going to produce some sort of dock on Roosevelt Island, it would make sense to look into that. REOC just recently completed a ferry study looking into both the oil dock and on the eastern channel side, the promenade. And I think that CBA should definitely pass that on to you to review. But I think if you're going to, it's pretty obvious at this point that there's going to be population growth, so there's going to be an effect on transportation. One of the ways to mitigate that will definitely be ferry service. There's ferry operators that are interested in having ferry service on the island. We were one of the considered stops in the Plan NYC study, and so I would suggest, and the coalition suggests that both the CBA and Cornell look into ferry service on Roosevelt Island. Thank you.
Followed by Joyce Minichek, and then followed by Monica Scorvron Dow.
I'm here not to give you a song of that story.
The microphone.
Just to bring the fact.
Is the mic on? Hold on. Test. Oh, hold on, let me see. Try that.
Okay, I'll repeat. My name is Adek, A-D-E-K, and a very long last name, which I could use up the entire 3 minutes. Okay, so I move on. I'm a civil engineer, and I have been a construction manager for about 60 years, believe it or not. And I have had large experience with major projects. I reviewed the few chapters, a handful of chapters on construction, and I have very serious problems with the transportation of concrete specifically. The Cornell group seems to concentrate on trucking in concrete, ready-mix concrete. The weight of a yard of concrete is partly water, and to import water to an island is kind of ridiculous, if not correct. So we suggest that they use a ready-mix plant and dismantle it after the project is completed. The increase in cost is only 1% by shipping it on barges as opposed to trucking. The trucking is the worst of all possibilities because of the vibration, the long-term life cycle costing that the trucking will cause, and that is to the adjoining community of Astoria, to the bridge, and to the helix. The study does not indicate the unpredictable things like accidents and the waiting of the people waiting for the concrete coming in from 10, 20, 30 miles. We could have the concrete right on the spot. And to use an example, the Army Corps of Engineers, who is the largest construction manager in the world, uses a plant on every major project beyond $1 million. There's no reason why we can't do the same. There are people who will put out a plan like that very reasonably, and the concrete would eliminate the production of ready-mix concrete, would eliminate a large portion of the beautiful pie chart that we saw on transportation impact. I suggest that Cornell look very carefully at barging as opposed to trucking. Trucking is really the worst of all solutions. We can do everything. We're underwater. We can do everything by water.
Followed by Monica, and that's followed by David Evans.
Thank you. No, I'm Joyce Mincha, and I did a lot of reading, so I'm going to do some fast talking. The first thing that I'd like to cover has to do with hazardous materials. There were a couple of things that struck me as being problematic. There was no indication of how many borings, although there was an indication that some toxins and things that were hazardous were located. In particular, there is a reference to ash, little teeny tiny word that's stuck in there only once. And we all have kind of conjures the image of the ash that you get when you go out and barbecue on a sunny summer day, or even the spiritualness of the ashes that you might distribute for your family and friends as their final resting place. But the ash, in fact, that is contained on Roosevelt Island may have even more dire consequences. There was a study that apparently was quashed by the Bush administration, fancy that indicates that people who live near sites used to store ash or sludge from coal-fired power plants have a 1 in 50 chance of developing cancer. The kind of ash that exists here may very well be flow ash, which was actually brought to the island in order to fill the quarry that used to exist on Roosevelt Island. We had a quarry that all our riprap, which are the stones that are laid around the water's edge to protect the seawall, comes from. So it's pretty deep, it has a lot of depth and a lot of breadth, and it could be carcinogenic. And in order to determine what can be done about that, there really has to be a more serious study. With admittedly the diverse mix of contaminants and toxins that exist at the site it's going to be built on, the population of the community must be protected by having its own arm's length consultant. And Cornell should pick up the tab for having a consultant for the community whose function is to make sure that the community's needs and health interests are protected. In addition, no hazardous materials should move through the single street that exists on Roosevelt Island, where even one small accident can devastate an entire community. All hazardous materials should either be barged or ferried out of Roosevelt Island. Now, the other thing I want to cover is having to do with the sports facilities. Cornell has indicated that they will not be building a gym, or they will not be building any sports facilities. They need to address the additional population that will be using our facilities, and they also need to address the lack of information pertaining to the impact on the library, which also had incorrect information.
Thank you. We have Monica, followed by David Evans, followed by April Ward.
Hi, good evening. I'm Monica Dow. I live at 625 Street. And I just wanted to comment about the natural resources chapter of Cornell's draft EIS. Cornell did a site reconnaissance on October 10th and 12th last year, 2011. And I wanted to suggest that Cornell does a site revisit and extended site reconnaissance in the springtime and early summer during during the nesting period for birds and during the migration period, because I think that probably that they missed a lot of the birds that migrate and also birds that actually nest on the island. Cornell suggested that most of the species are disturbance-tolerant species, and in fact, the trend on the island is that the environmental quality is improving, has been improving for a number of years, and we're seeing the reappearance or new appearance of some species that haven't been around for a while, such as the black-crowned night heron, which fishes from dusk, basically from dusk to dawn, and is nesting on the island. And this past summer there were great egrets, mostly on the island. And that's not at all listed in Cornell's draft EIS. So I wanted to suggest first a new visit, a new site visit, and also I wanted to ask if Cornell could strive to protect the areas or maintain a safe corridor between the areas north of the project site and south of the project site where there are birds nesting and where there are other species living that need a safe passageway, including a land passage and passage along the water, because there are a number of birds also fishing along the river. And there are migratory fish also that travel along the water. And I also wanted to ask if Cornell could use in-site maintenance once the project is done, that they would utilize really natural methods of pest control, etc., that would encourage animals that would not poison animals, basically, that would encourage more diversification of species. And also there is a peregrine falcon. There have been peregrine falcons not nesting on the island because there is a nest box at the New York Royal Cornell Hospital across the river, but they hunt on the island. And last just a mention of Cornell would be extension office.
Cornell.
Extension office, because Cornell is a land college and maybe we'll have an office on the island.
Okay, great. David, we have David Evans, followed by April Ward, followed by Teresa.
Munfa.
What is it?
Munfa.
Munfa, okay.
Good evening. I'm Dave Evans. My family has been on Roosevelt Island approximately 4.5 years. And the topic I wish to briefly mention is chapter 13 on energy. This chapter describes the use and conservation of energy by the project, by Cornell's project itself. And it begs a number of questions, particularly in terms of the silence on some areas that could probably benefit Roosevelt Island a bit more. These questions that I will propose are informed by various islander inputs, and they're not exhaustive. First, the overall question is, why does the Cornell DEIS only provide the commitment of attaining LEED Silver certification for itself, while not articulating advantages to and any benefits for the Roosevelt Island community from an energy perspective? Broader and related questions would include why the DES is silent on the pending future continuation of the Southtown development and associated energy needs and what might be, if any, the impacts of that. Why is it silent on energy-related strategic initiatives of the wire buildings on the island, particularly the potential conversion from electric heat to low-temperature hydronic heat? And there is silence on the continuing steam needs of Kohler Hospital. There is no mention of Kohler Hospital itself. The potential decommissioning of the Goldmore steam plant and its alternative uses for Cornell Tech. And if there are available new yet practical technologies for energy production that could be considered for the benefit of Roosevelt Island, given that Cornell is particularly regarded as an expert in this energy area, or a leader in this area. And finally, why does the draft environmental impact statement seem misleading to some extent as it pertains to the natural gas that will be supplied? This is particularly noted because, as we understand it, this is a benefit to Roosevelt Island or this is a direct input from Con Edison as opposed to a direct benefit from the island that results from the Cornell Tech project itself. Thank you so much.
Next speaker, April Ward, followed by Teresa, followed by Linda.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for addressing the barging. That was a great start, but I think it needs a lot more work still, so thanks for working on it. I'm going to run through a lot of things really quickly here. One of the things that I didn't see in the study was how you're going to pick up garbage ongoingly, and I'd like to see you have a vacuum tube so that we have in most of the buildings, because it's really nice not to have garbage on the street. The motorgate build-out is a possibility. The motorgate could have more cars, spaces put on top, and somebody else ran out of time, so I thought I'd bring that up. So you could look into that with REOC. Let's see, the trees. I looked at the shade study, and gratefully, the shade is really not going to affect South Point Park. However, it is going to affect the remaining trees on the lot. Now, out of 132 trees, approximately 90 will be cut down. I'd like to know if you have a plan for those trees, a visual plan that has every tree on it so that you can show us which trees will be cut down. I'd like that plan, and also I'd like to know what type of tree it is, because they will have different sunlight requirements and the ones that are left may not survive. And I'd like to know specific measures that you're going to take to protect the remaining trees, because if that lot level is raised, it will cover the roots of the trees. The trees may not survive even if they're saved. So all of that I'd like to look at. And let's see. The DEIS didn't take into account the construction of other buildings that we will have going on during the same time that we're going to be doing construction. And so the trucking figures and all that are so off, it was really hard for me to read it, knowing that we will have this other construction. So that needs to be taken into account before any of this is really accurate at all. On the geothermal well system that you have planned, I'm assuming it's a closed loop plan, and I'm not sure why you chose that plan, because it's been shown to be less efficient than other plans and about 30% more cost involved to drill. 400 wells is going to take a long time to drill, and I'm wondering how many trucks you're going to have. The drills usually come on a truck. How many drills you will have out there drilling at the same time so that the noise can be all combined rather than spread out over possibly 400 days. I've been involved with, I didn't give you my background. I come from a construction family, dealt with geothermal wells, and it's a lot of noise, and we need to think about that. I think if my bell rang, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Followed by Judith Berg.
Hi, my name is Teresa Monfort. I am an engineer and I am resident of Roosevelt Island. I did
Yeah, hold into the mic. You can speak into the mic.
start from the beginning. My name is Teresa. I am an engineer and resident of Roosevelt Island. I didn't read 800 pages, but I read enough to have few things to talk about. I want to talk about the explosive material. I have few questions related to the excavation. You are going to have garage below grade, which I don't know how many levels, which means you need to excavate. And the question will be, what type of excavate, what method of excavation, what type of foundations, and are you going to use explosive material? How are you going to transport them? We all remember what happened recently on 7th Avenue subway. My last question is, method of handling the excavated soil, especially the ash layer that exists. It could include metal, especially mercury. And how are you going to control the dust? I didn't see any of this in the DEIS. I know you said you follow all the regulations. I believe that a statement should be included in the DEIS saying that environmental management report will be prepared for this project and will be reviewed and concurred by all stakeholders, including Roosevelt Island residents, and approved by the appropriate agencies. The second thing, you said that you will have restaurants and retails and it will be shared by Roosevelt Island, especially because the 600 students will not generate the required revenue and profits to attract and maintain businesses. That's good. But what will happen when the full build-up is completed and you don't need the support of Roosevelt Island for the revenue? Again, we have experience with Octagon. They did the same to us. We are not allowed to use whatever they have facility there. Again, a statement should be included to give us the comfort, and this statement should be in the EIS, and it should say that it will be open to the non-student or worker of Cornell. In the medication chapter, you talk about medications, which is very likely your solutions. The one that you have solutions are very light solutions. But you didn't mention what will be the cost and where the budget will be coming from and who is going to implement these solutions. The second part is the unmitigated area. How can we accept problems without solutions? The last thing, I requested a side meeting with the appropriate party from Cornell and the consultant to present traffic simulation study and finding. The study should include existing and future conditions from the intersection to Roosevelt Island, Helix Ramp, Main Street, and all other streets in the island. The study should include the impact on level of service and recommended solutions.
Thank you. We have Linda followed by Judith, followed by Albert Novikov.
Good evening. My name is Linda Heimer. I'm an island resident for 32 years. I'm a member of the DRIP Board of Directors, and as a community activist for about 22 of those 32 years, I have a very strong interest in the Cornell Tech project and the positive impact it can have on New York City in general and on Roosevelt Island in particular. But of course, I also have a concern about preserving and maintaining the special, unique character of our island and our quality of life. So, representing Rick, the Roosevelt Island Community Coalition, and those with similar concerns and requests to follow. One, Cornell Tech appointed a lead contact person we can reach if there are problems or complaints. This person should be able to quickly reach contractors, subcontractors, and key players to help resolve issues or at least get answers. A successful example of this is the Second Avenue subway. Had a lot of problems. People would call 311. They would get no answers or delayed answers or insufficient answers. They appointed a contact person, and this was resolved, both because they solved some problems and also it really helped with community relations. 2, Cornell Tech funded independent consultant to monitor progress and adherence to agreements reached between Cornell Tech and RIC, CBA, the City Council, and similar entities. And 3, Cornell Tech worked with an advisory board which RIC would set up, comprised of some RIC members, engineers, and other professionals well versed in development to continue dialogue well beyond the UA process. The purpose of these 3 requests is to minimize problems, herald successes to the community, and to ensure mutually rewarding ongoing relationship. In a meeting with Cornell and some of our RIC members, we did discuss the advisory board concept and the lead contact person concept, but we do not yet know how Cornell thinks about that, and we appreciate an update on that, and also a response to our request for an independent consultant. Thank you.
Thank you. Last time I came up to speak at a Cornell meeting, I brought a picture of a barge when Goldwater was under construction. Maybe I should have brought a picture of a flood in back of Goldwater. It's really not, I only did look at the Historical Society and the historical part of the DEIS, and it was a nice recitation of our history, and it was correct. I'm more worried at this point about the seawall and the future of building this beautiful $350 million campus, sort of like building at Los Angeles on the San Andreas Fault. You're just risking everything. There has to be some indication that Cornell has to pay for it, but the city and the state and the federal government have to repair our seawalls because we, as Andrew said, right, the first thing he said, we're in a floodplain. Kohler was flooded, Lighthouse was flooded, Octagon was flooded. What do we have to do to make sure that not only the Cornell site, but the rest of the island does not flood? A lot of people were flooded out of their apartments. It was a miserable situation, and Kohler is still suffering. And I cannot understand why, in this day and age, we just let someone build and pretend it doesn't exist. It is most upsetting to me to see that even before last Halloween, no one was thinking about the condition, the decrepit condition of our seawalls. Also, a few other things about it. The promenades, which are next to the seawalls, are pretty nice, but they're in pretty crummy condition, so they have to be repaired. Personally, there's no reason for a one-lane street and a bike lane. We have promenades, we have plenty of streets, we do not need a bike lane. We've gotten along fine without bike lanes, and we need a wider street because people do double park, and we cannot risk having the entire south end of the island or north end of the island stopped because one person double parked on a one-lane street. Also, one thing that should be in perpetuity, Cornell cannot fence off their campus. They cannot make it an isolated fenced-off area. All roads leading into the campus must be large enough for trucks and delivery trucks and vehicles. You look at all these pictures, there's no roads, the FedEx guy just drops the packages from a helicopter. It's, what we used to call Disney engineering, but unfortunately Disney is too good and it wouldn't solve them. At no point access, I know there has to be limited access, on the roadways during construction, but the construction should never be detrimental to the access to South Point Park and the FDR Memorial. And my last thing is that it's really nice to have a campus with food and everything, but you gotta come up to the rest of the island and be part of our community. Thank you.
Eva Bostock, followed by, is it Jan Fund or Jan Fund? Followed by Lynn Shinozaki, I think. Lynn Shinozaki? Okay.
Okay, hello, good evening. My name is Eva Bostock. I'm
I'm from the Roosevelt Island Residents Association, and also I'm working for Island Kids, leading the Roosevelt Island Baby Group, and coordinating a large network of parents with small children. So I was asking the parents on my network, along with parents on the island, about this, and I basically collected two topics. One was the transporting of the material and the effect on the air pollution and on the noise level, because I would like to point out that children, especially small children, they are not the ones who leave the island in the morning and come back in the evening. They will be here the whole time, they will be hearing everything and breathing everything. And when we were talking about maybe the necessity of closing down the whole permanent for a while, then I'm asking myself how far is the train station from there and the whole area we are using all the time. So if there is going to be such a huge pollution or noise, what's going to be some just few feet from there. So please keep in mind there is not only children but a large population, large community here on the island the whole day during the rush hours have to deal with whatever dust or noise or pollution in there. Second point was a request for the playgrounds. We will have to have more playgrounds. You will have to have some touching points with Cornell Tech. It could be playgrounds, it could be indoor play areas for the winter. It could be something in Europe, we call it Children's University, where the children can come, meet with the faculty, and some maybe Children's Day, whatever, to get in touch also with this part of the community. Thank you.
John,
Jan.
Jan?
Yeah.
Could be Jan, could be Jan. Jan, is that okay?
That's true.
Yeah, Lynn is Shinozaki, is it? And then, is it Brian, Bess, McLean? Okay. Okay, sorry.
I have two things that really bother me, and one is that although this is a wonderful project, it can bring terrorism to Roosevelt Island. And we need some sort of security here, and we cannot afford it out of our Roosevelt Island coffers. We need to have Cornell, Technion, committed to some sort of security for this project, and to stay on the island, and to protect us. And the second thing was, which was brought up many times, is the trucks on Roosevelt Island. There are many crosswalks here with disabled people and elderly people, and I'm sure all those truck drivers do not know that the pedestrians have the right of way. We must not have these trucks on Roosevelt Island, and they have to do something about it, and especially the concrete ones too. So those were my two concerns.
And then we have, is it Green? Okay.
Hi, I'm Lynn Shinozaki. I'm a resident for 22 years, and I'd like to address both Community Board 8 and Melanie Myers. What I'd like to ask is, in the unresolved and unmitigated things that are in the report, that they not approve the report until those such items are mitigated, number one. Number two, that in the issue of barging, they talk a lot about barging onto the island, but we didn't talk about barging off the island, specifically toxic substances. I would not like to see toxic substances going down Main Street. I'd like to see all those things barged off and is safe and using some type of consultant to make sure that's done safely. In terms of the zoning questions, and this is specifically for Melanie, it's my understanding that the zoning changes are of a blanket nature and very unspecific in terms of the parking specifically, where the zoning says that there is no parking requirement now in the zoning change. I'd like that to have a specific amount of parking spaces that they are required to put into that zoning change. And then also with the commercial spaces, what happens if the deal falls through and the zoning laws have been changed? I would like the zoning to be specific to this project, and that if the project should, for some unforeseeable reason, fall through, that the zoning go back to its original zoning, and that the commercial spaces have a requirement of percentages of not more than. You don't want to see a shopping mall go in there because they have been allowed commercial space. The other thing that I'd like to bring to the attention of the community is that this is a gift. The space and land has been a gift to Cornell. They are required to benefit the community. It's not something that, oh, they're being kind to us. I think we need to be very aware and cognizant that they have a requirement to benefit the community. And I have also listed, there are some papers over there for people to write their questions in writing for Community Board 8, so that we can get as many things to Community Board 8 in writing.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have Bryn followed by, I think it's Louis Medina, followed by Mohammed Ali Nakiri.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Bryn Bass-McCleary, and I was recently elected to Rira. I'm representing Manhattan Park. I myself am one of the invisibly disabled. I was born with scoliosis and spondylolisthesis. At the age of 12 years old, my mom would save money from her allowance to take me to Pilates, sports, dance, and chiropractors, which alleviated much of that, which gives me a great compassion for disabled people on the island, which we have many of, and the way that we treat them. I was recently, this summer, on a bus in New York City, in Manhattan, and a middle-aged woman was bawled out, a disabled person in a wheelchair, for taking up so many seats on the bus and for delaying the bus so long to get on and off the bus, making her late for her appointment. She actually said to the person, "You should be using the accessoride and not inconveniencing all of us on the bus." I just wanted you to know that here on Roosevelt Island, the culture and the community is very compassionate to our disabled community, as well as the many, many mothers and children with strollers, which is a large population of our island. I was recently waiting for the red bus just a couple of weeks ago outside the subway station, and the bus driver actually parked the bus, got off of the bus, and said to a long queue of people that were lined up to get on, "Everybody with baby strollers and disabled, please come forward first and get on the bus," and took them from the middle and the end of the line. That is how we treat people here on Roosevelt Island. It's a very small town community feeling. My concern is that when we have the large population of the college, of students and faculty, that they would take that into consideration, and that there would be enough red buses added to the community so that our disabled and our moms with little children and strollers are not waiting out in the snow, the rain, the heat, the cold, because the buses are too crowded for them to be treated the way that they are treated currently. And that the community of the college would be aware that they need to either get off the bus, wait for the next bus, or be considerate the way people are right now. And that is a concern to me, that we welcome the college. We're looking forward to you coming. I hope to work with you myself as a Rira member. I'm totally looking forward to it. I feel that you would help our community so much with funds, with political clout in Albany, with many great programs, and I'm looking forward very much to working with you. I just would like you to consider that we handle some things differently here in Southtown Albany. Thank you very much.
We have Louis, followed by Mohammed.
Good evening. My name is Louis Medina, and I have been a security officer for 7 years and a member of SEIU Local 32 EJ for 5 years. On behalf of the other 70,000 SEIU Local 32 EJ members that live and work in New York City, I am here tonight to express our support for the Cornell University Tech campus. Cornell has promised that the new campus will result in thousands of permanent job opportunities. With good wages and benefits, this will help New York's families survive in tough times while spurring economic growth. The new campus will also provide educational opportunities with an emphasis of sustainability, and will further strengthen New York's growing tech industry. The institute will serve the community with a campus that is open to the public and programming for kindergarten to 12th grade education. As we all know, not every institution is committed to the creation of high-quality jobs that allow workers to care for their families and thrive in our city. But Cornell is committed to creating quality jobs, both blue-collar and white-collar. Tens of thousands of new permanent jobs will be generated, and that will have a positive economic impact for all New Yorkers. We need to support responsible community partners like Cornell and recognize projects like this, one that will help building services workers at this project. The janitors, residential workers, and security officers that help an institution of this level run, earn the wages and benefits they need to get in a foothold in the middle class. For these reasons, I urge the community board to support this proposal. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mohammed, followed by Susie Belcampo, followed by Helen, I think it's Chervis.
Good evening. Thank you, Cornell Community Board 8, for this public comment session. I've been a resident of Roosevelt Island for over 2 years now. The reason I moved here was for the quiet neighborhood atmosphere. Besides the occasional hurricane, that's usually not a problem. The reason I'm here is because I do have concerns regarding the partnership with the Technion. I'm sure we've all seen the news over the past 2 weeks and the military conflict that's going over there. And apparently there were protests in New York City and in front of the Israeli embassy, Times Square, every single day, over 500 people coming. My concern is, will this happen on Roosevelt Island just because we have an Israeli institute here? So regardless of where you stand on politics, whether you care or not, I think this is a concern for all residents. And how will we control this? Another woman mentioned security. Again, if we have extra security, that changes the atmosphere on the island. And especially, does that mean we're going to limit free speech right next to the Four Freedoms Park? That freedom of expression is a part of that. So that I think is a major concern. The other thing it does, I think, is it creates a media spotlight for a cause that really has stayed out of the media. This is a project that's been stayed 25 years. Every time something happens over there, does that mean that we're going to have people coming here to protest because they know the media is concerned with it? Because this project is in the media, because this is an important project. So these are concerns that I think are important. I represent a group called Roosevelt Islanders for Accountability and Transparency. In line with that, my question is why there was not more transparency with the Technion partnership. During the proposals and competition, Stanford and Cornell were ahead, but there was no mention of Technion. Why were there no other foreign institutes, like from France or Germany or Switzerland?
Come on, you're out of line.
Please.
What, please? We're not here for...
Please, no, he has the floor, let him finish, please.
So speaking of controversy, this is what I'm talking about. So people are very riled up about this. So why are we going to need controversy?
So let him finish, please. He has the floor, let him finish.
Why?
Because I run the meeting, please.
He's out of line.
So this is the controversy I'm talking about. This is not just me. There are hundreds of people who are concerned about this, and I think people sometimes project onto an individual because they think the person stands a certain way. I mean, that's not what this is about. It's literally about hundreds of people worried about this. So as a resident, this concerns me. So my request is to have Community Board 8 hold a meeting specifically on this issue so people can actually talk about it, ask questions, and people provide the right answers. For other people who share this concern, you can email us at reactny@yahoo.com. That's RIACTNY@yahoo.com. Thank you so much.
All right.
Followed by Helen, followed by Jessica Walker.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Susie. I have been part of this community for 4 years. And in that time, I got pregnant and I had a baby girl. Now, I've heard about Cornell and the construction and demolition of the hospital. And I think about my daughter. The only toddler playground that we have is in Southtown. So when they start demolishing it, the previous hospital that we have, I will not be able to take my daughter to the playground. And neither the other moms and dads in the island, neither the other nannies. So our playgrounds are mainly in Southtown, and I will have to ask Cornell that you have to think about children, because they're building this Cornell facility for education, but they're not thinking about the children that are already in the island, that have the right to be able to go through Main Street without having a truck every 8 minutes passing by them, that they don't have to breathe the debris of demolishing a building, that you don't know what kind of things will be leaving the rock that they are in right now, and we will be all of us breathing it. We are adults, and we can handle that at some point, but not the children, not the baby. So you will also have to think about something that in case that we start getting sick, we don't have to pay our own health bills. The other thing is, in case of an emergency, like we have Sandy as an example, if you use our helix, then we will not have any way to go out in case of an emergency. And that's a very problematic thing. Also, about the parking lot that you have been commenting, I used the parking lot before. I used to have a car, a company car. The problem was that there was not enough spaces because people were taking over 2 spaces instead of 1. And then there's no lighting in our parking lot. It's not safe for us, and you will be having more cars from your workers, from their construction. So you have to think about that. Also, my background is I'm a systems engineer in cybernetics, and I have a supply chain master degree from Spain. And I have worked before for Anixter that produces cable, special cable, and produces a lot of things. So you can have all the equipment hookup. We have I used to manage all of Latin America, and we have to think about logistics provided by the people to buy the products from. The construction workers that will do the work, the construction companies have to provide you with alternatives to do the barge. Not Roosevelt have to provide you the ways to do the barge. Thank you so much.
Followed by Jessica Walker, followed by UK Sue.
Hello, my name is Helen Rodriguez. I've been part of Ira. Also, I've lived here for a number of years. The first thing that I wanted to mention was these issues regarding Technion and Israel in general. I don't have a problem with it personally. I don't think anybody should have a problem with it personally. In terms of research, military-related research is being conducted at all the universities in the United States. So if you're going to look at Technion, you've got to look at MIT, you've got to look at Stanford. There's no way you can get away from it, so there's no reason to point your finger at Technion. They're as good or as bad as any other university. So I welcome Technion. I think they're going to be a fine partner here on Roosevelt Island and in the U.S. They're very innovative, they're very progressive. Just go on their website and you'll see that they are involved in wonderful things. So I firmly for that. Just quickly going on to a couple of other issues that I thought of. One was the seawall that Judy was talking about. I think Cornell is putting the horse before the cart in not addressing that first, and not addressing the problem of the floodplain and what might happen. I do think they should contribute to the seawall, actually, not just the government in the state of New York, but let Cornell get involved and possibly pay some money for it as well, building it up. And very quickly, the third thing, in their presentation, Cornell talked about the difficulty of using these barges, that they're looking into it, they're trying to have the barges, but oh, there's this problem, there's that problem. Well, I think we should just say no trucks. I'm sorry, we have enough trucks, they have got to be kept to a minimum. They must implement a barge scheme that's realistic and that will work, even if it means building a permanent dock, which we can use for ferries in the future. We can't have an unlimited number of heavy trucks rolling down Main Street and so forth and so on. Exactly what everybody is saying. I agree with that. And they're saying that they can't find a facility that's closer than an hour. But that's impossible in a city like New York. Newtown Creek is a maze of canals and industrial facilities and plants right there, and it's not an hour away. They should look at Newtown Creek and have their cement there, mix whatever it is, and bring those trucks over by barge. And that's all I have to say.
Jessica, followed by UK Sue, following is Dan Minor.
Hi, I'm Jessica Walker with the Partnership for New York City. Bear with me, I'm going to read a brief statement. The Partnership for New York City represents the city's business leadership and its largest private sector employers. We work together with government, labor, and the nonprofit sector to promote economic growth and maintain the city's position as a global center for commerce and innovation. The Partnership for New York City Fund is an enterprise capitalized by our member companies that invests in job creation, community development, and building our innovation industries. We view the Cornell